Hello everyone, I'm Tom Nguyen. Today, our group will be presenting our strategic planning report on the Illinois Parent-Teacher Association, also widely known as the PTA. Before we get into the specific details of our study and discuss some strategies we recommend, I will provide a high-level overview of the organization and some important background information. The organization was founded in 1897 by Phoebe Aberson Hearst and Alice McEllen Burney. They founded it as the National Congress of Mothers. And this was during a time when women did not have the right to vote and social activism was not popular. However, these women believed that mothers would support the mission to eliminate threats that endangered children. On February 17, 1897, Phoebe and Alice held their first official meeting in DC at a hotel. They didn't know how many people would show up, but secretly they were expecting, or they were hoping for 200 or 300. To their surprise, over 2,000 people, mostly mothers, but also fathers, teachers, laborers, and legislators showed up. 20 years later, there were 37 chartered state congresses, including in Illinois, and the organization changed its name to the National Congress of Parents and Teachers. Then, in the 70s, the organization merged with the National Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers and became the National Parent-Teacher Association, what is known today as National PTA. Historically, the PTA was at the forefront of advocating on important legislation that still improved the lives of all children today, such as the creation of kindergarten classes, child labor laws, hot and healthy lunch programs, the juvenile justice system, and mandatory immunizations. Today, the PTA is the largest child advocacy organization with 53 state PTA congresses, including Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a European Congress of military families. Nationwide, there are 24,000 local PTAs and 5 million members. The majority of PTAs are located in elementary and middle schools, but there are also some high schools that have PTAs. When someone joins PTA at their local level or at their local school, they are part of their local PTA, their state PTA, and national PTA. Although the PTA is a widely known and reputable organization, it is facing many challenges that we will discuss in greater detail.
With our analysis of the Illinois PTA, we conducted a performance audit, specifically a SWOT analysis. We looked at the internal strengths and weaknesses of the organization, as well as external opportunities and threats. For this analysis, we use available information, interviews, as well as existing processes. Some of the strengths of the Illinois PTA include the fact that it's a statewide organization and it is distributed geographically across the state and addresses the needs of children. There are advocacy efforts that include parent volunteers, PTA staff, schools, and teachers alike. Another strength is that the collective voice of the PTA across the state due to the number of volunteers, as well as the name recognition of the Illinois PTA within the state legislature. Some of the challenges or weaknesses with the Illinois PTA include the lack of recognition within the legislature. So although there's name recognition, it's difficult to advocate for any specific causes. For example, although there are 90,000 members in the Illinois PTA and 5 million members across the country, there is no mechanism to communicate with these members directly. State and national PTAs communicate with local PTA presidents only, and there is no individual membership database to assist with this. So when a state or national PTA wants to advocate for a certain piece of legislation that affects children, they cannot effectively do that outreach if members are unaware of the issues or if they're unsure of how to advocate or how to even communicate appropriately. Another challenge with the Illinois PTA is the decreasing membership. Members were seemingly leaving the PTA in droves at one time. In 1 year, Illinois PTA lost 10,000 members. Although that rate has slowed, without the recruitment of new members, membership loss is still an issue. Some schools, instead of having a PTA, a Parent-Teacher Association, have what's called a PTO, or Parent-Teacher Organization, which is another type of parent membership organization within the school. The difference is in that the PTOs in local schools keep all portions of their membership dues, whereas PTAs, a portion of their funds, their membership dues, go to both the state PTA as well as national PTA. A third issue with the Illinois PTA is member recruitment. The millennial generation is typically not as interested in investing their time. Previously, in prior generations, there were more stay-at-home moms, and today, more parents, both parents in a household are working. So they have less time to volunteer, and their children are in so many diverse activities, which is also part of the reason why there's less PTAs at the high school level, because of the activities that the youth are in. More parents are also concerned with their children and their school as opposed to national PTA issues. Some schools don't have the right equipment or the right learning materials, so they want to advocate at their local level, and they have less interest of advocating for national issues. There's also a lack of demographic diversity. PTA is not representative of today's families. It's typically still perceived as a white woman's organization. And finally, the fourth issue that we've identified is limited paid staff. The Illinois PTA has two paid staff right now, and they are not in a position to hire additional permanent staff. We have ideas on how to address these challenges, which Cameron and Viola will speak to. But the Illinois PTA also needs to increase the level of involvement with local members. In terms of the opportunities and threats within the Illinois PTA as part of the final bit of the SWOT analysis, the opportunities include outreaching to younger families, or more specifically the millennial generation. They can bring individual schools together for collective ownership and voice. They can increase funding through a revised school funding formula, and they can partner with other statewide organizations. The threats to the Illinois PTA include a lack of Illinois state budget, decreasing membership, which we've talked about, minimal legislative buy-in, and unable to leverage the name within the state legislature, as well as time constraints on families today to volunteer for the PTA.
Hello, I'm Cameron, and I will be covering two of the challenges Tiffany laid out. That'll be the lack of recognition in the legislature, as well as the limited paid staff working for the Illinois PTA. Now, presently, the Illinois PTA services 90,000 members on the local level. This is an incredibly powerful voice, an incredibly powerful tool as well for advocacy. One of the difficulties we are encountering is ensuring that members are capable of having their voices heard by their state senators and their state representatives. Two of the more important advocacy issues that the PTA is trying to push are banning energy drinks in schools and lead from drinking water. Now, one of the issues is the need to tie local issues into statewide missions. To do this, one of the things we're attempting to do is create a database. This database would connect the state PTA with all of the local members, not just local PTA presidents. This is incredibly important because many members at the local level cite a lack of understanding as to how to be advocates to not being advocates. So if we provide how-to instructions through a listserv that would be created by this database. We could be providing these local members the tools such as pre-scripted letters or pre-scripted statements for calls to their state representatives and state senators. It's incredibly important that we emphasize statewide issues and tie that into the local members' local schools to get them more motivated and actively calling. Now, every year there is a week-long advocacy week, and it is always centered around a single day called an Advocacy Day. This involves local PTA presidents traveling down to Springfield, as well as any local members who want to get involved. But again, we're not seeing people, the local members, and getting involved solely at the presidential level of the local PTA. The second issue we have is the limited paid staff. Presently, the Illinois PTA only employs 2 paid staff. One of the ways we can confront this issue is by offering graduate-level internships. Now, this would be specifically directed towards interns, graduate-level students seeking degrees in education, policy, and other relevant fields. For example, since one of our advocacy issues is increased regulation for lead in drinking waters in schools, one important field might be the environmental sciences. An additional way for us to combat the limited paid staff at the Illinois PTA would be to increase local fees. Now, presently, your local PTAs are going to have fees of roughly $10. The way this splits up is presently $2 of those $10 will go to the Illinois PTA, $2.25 will go to the nationwide PTA, and the remainder is kept by that local PTA for whatever advocacy issues it may be confronting and whatever fundraising efforts they might have set for the coming year. One of our ideas would be to increase this fee from $10 to $12. That would increase the state portion of the fee from $2 to $3, and then the local portion could also increase $1. Now, for the state PTA, since our membership is roughly 90,000 members, this would increase our funds from $180,000 to roughly $270,000, or a rough increase of about $90,000. This would allow the Illinois PTA to hire 1 or 2 additional staff members depending on their level of experience and level of pay scale that we want to incorporate.
Hello, I'm Viola, and I'll be discussing 2 key strategies to address some of the main challenges PTAs are facing. One of the biggest threats to national, state, and local PTAs are that membership numbers continue to decrease. Since 2002, PTA has lost approximately 1 million members. As Tiffany mentioned, today's generation of families typically have less time to volunteer. During PTA's prime years, often there was a stay-at-home mom. Today, most families consist of 2 working parents. Also, in some cases, there's only 1 parent or the child is living with a grandparent. Another reason for declining memberships is because of the competing parent organization, such as the parent-teacher organization, PTO. The main difference between the PTA and PTO is that PTOs are independent organizations at their local school. They are not affiliated or supported by a state and national organization, which enables them to keep all membership dues at their child's school. This is a huge selling point for schools to convert to a PTO model. Some of the strategies we developed for sustaining and increasing membership include engaging diverse families and making them feel welcome within the PTA. We will develop membership campaigns to attract fathers, teachers, and other ethnically diverse populations. Provide additional member benefits to members, such as discounts similar to those offered by AARP. A few strategies we developed to tackle the issue of PTOs include better informing schools about the value of PTAs, such as the legal and administrative support from the state and national levels. Some PTOs don't even realize they are not part of PTA. We recommend developing a statewide branding campaign that clearly delineates the difference between being an independent organization affiliated with a school as opposed to belonging to the nation's largest child advocacy organization. Additionally, this campaign will encourage PTOs to transition to a PTA. File a lawsuit against PTO for providing misleading information about the organization to schools and for stealing PTA content and resources and repackaging them as PTO resources. We feel confident that implementing these strategies will address these major challenges. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our presentation about the Illinois PTA.
Go Cubs!
PTA!